I check with the AI is, can you detect the AI in this? Who else has picked up a bad habit from AI? Come on, guys. Come on, it can't just be the students. Can't just be. Okay, I'm coming to you just now. I'm running, don't worry. It may not look like it. Women don't run, we slide gracefully.
Okay. My name is Sohomzodi Debe. I'm from Energized Physiotherapy Clinic. Whenever we are doing the referrals, we were always taking a long time to do referrals. Nowadays, when I refer a patient to another surgeon or orthopedic, I just go to AI, I just tell the diagnosis. Maybe I say back pain or sciatica, and then he just wrote the sciatica, whatever that entails sciatica, and then I refer the client. Thank you.
Guys, can we trust our doctors anymore? Aris is putting things into the AI and telling it to recommend what. Our guys. Now, guys, I'm going to be very honest with you. You want to explain? You want to explain yourself? Because now we don't trust you guys anymore.
You know, a patient can come, physiotherapy, and then we do assessment. And then whenever we do something and we see that, okay, we need to refer the patient somewhere, and there are many patients and they have the same condition like sciatica, which is common. So what we do, I go to AI, I just say, okay, I just want to refer this patient to this with this condition. AI will just write the referral, then I give the client to go to that. And also we use it for marketing. Nowadays, our market level is on top notch because there are more clients, they can be able to go to website, to our pages.
Yeah. Okay, guys, now that she's explained herself, okay, we can trust them a little bit. What was still watching you? But you know the one I'm waiting to hear, because I'm pretty sure majority of us have done it at this point. Going on to ChatGPT to break up with someone. I know we do it, guys. No, we have done it, Shem. I'll go there and I'll be like, hey, Chat, listen, I'm not really feeling this person like that. What's a nice way to make it a little bit more palatable, you know? Hey, in a humane way, where I just go in and I'm like, where I'm trying to tell you, Tsala, stay Tsala. That's all you need to be. This baby, what not? Let's not do it. You wanted to also take the mic? You have a question? Oh, you're not part of us. You don't claim us. No, it's okay. It's okay. You can stay over there. You want the mic? Okay, that's. Oh, we need the mic? Cool. For technical purposes.
Hi. I was laughing because how to break up humanely, because last night a friend of mine and I were talking about maybe we could use ChatGPT to find men. Like, tell ChatGPT who your crush is, what your crush likes, what you like, and ask ChatGPT to tell you where you can find somebody of similar qualities.
Yes. No, but I hear you. There's a girl on TikTok who made a very good comment.
There's a girl on TikTok.
She said, guys, I don't understand why we're still using dating websites. Go find your crush, find them on LinkedIn, see the things that they like to, find them at the golf course, man. So that in their heads they're like, yeah, no, we like the same things. I love it though. He said we can't always get what we want. But listen, guys, AI in general has come and done so many great things, right? From helping us reply emails or breaking up with somebody to helping us park our cars. You know, we've gotten to the point where, well, not here in Botswana, although there's a Tesla, we've got your self-driving cars and everything. Soon enough, the next generation won't even need to get a license, which upsets me because I went through so much to get my licenses, man. Like, And then my sister's just going to come up one day and be like, I don't need a license, the car drives itself. For what? And it's so funny because we really do get to see the changes that happen, especially because how young is the youngest person in here actually? Let me think about this. Anyone who's 18? 19? 20? Okay. The youngest person here is 20, right? But you get to see it from a perspective of to our older folks, no, our more matured, however you'd like to call yourself, right? But to those who have seen more life than us, right? They will come in and they'll have their stories of, when back in my day, there was no internet, there was no this. If you wanted to study, you had to use a candle and open your books because there was never any electricity. And now here we are saying, okay, cool. But our generation, we now have the internet, we have YouTube, we have we have all these things, and we're even growing it further to all these things where it kind of does it for you instead of you going out of your way to do it for yourself, right? And that's so cool in my personal opinion, right? Because the future really is here. It's showing us that it is arriving. In fact, it has arrived. So now that it looks like we have sorted out our projector and the technical difficulties, we will be moving on with the program. Next up, we have Mr. Stembiso Dlamini, right, who will be making a presentation. And let me tell you just a little bit about him. Guys, today I said the English was fighting, but it's back now. If you didn't know, I work in radio, so sometimes, mentally, the words finish. So I'm back. All right, so he is a CEO, quadruple telecommunications entrepreneur, and a digital inclusive advocate. A seasoned telecommunications entrepreneur focused on last mile connectivity using AI-powered Wi-Fi, 4G or 5G, and FTTX solutions. He brings deep experience delivering broadband infrastructure across Southern Africa, driving digital inclusion for undeserved communities through cost-effective and scalable solutions. All right, help me welcome Mr. Stembiso Dlamini.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My task seems a bit more. I am in Botswana, I think, for the second time since I was born. You're looking at me, doctor. The last time I was in Botswana, I went to a small town. I flew from South Africa called Kasane. I flew to Kasane to talk to Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia, and there was no one, unfortunately, from my home country, Eswatini. So now I had to represent my country, whereas I had come to speak to them. We do a little bit of this and that. It's a mess. That's the best way to put it. In our industry, it's called telecommunication. I didn't find anything to do in life except telecommunication. When I was young, I used to believe there should be something that I do that possibly no one else does it at any given time. So it's for that reason when I was in primary school, my English teacher didn't understand why I'm the only one who failed to do words in alphabetical order. I was position 1, so I passed almost everything, but that one I didn't write. So I asked her, were you really asking me to put these words in alphabetical order? She says, yes. And were there no other questions? a little bit more difficult questions for me to answer than these ones. So a teacher will say a question and expect all of us to raise hands to guess the answer. Never in my life in primary and high school did I raise my hand when all hands were up, or there were few hands which were up. So it's only when he or she will realize that there's no one who's raising a hand, and he will just point to me and say, don't you have an idea? I'm like, yeah, I have, but your question was too simple. I spent most of my life, very short while, I think it's going for 17 years now, in the telecoms industry after university. My first task after working in HR, as an engineer, I worked in HR for a whole year. And that shaped my life because I was doing human development. So I was an HRD officer for a whole year. Then I got transferred to a department that didn't exist. So that time I was working for a company called Eswatini Telecom in Eswatini. So it was SPTC that time. We didn't change the country by that time. We only changed the name of the country in 2018 from Swaziland to Eswatini. So I'm getting used to the Eswatini naming, but few people still call it Swaziland. I'm transferred to a department called the Network Operations Center. It never existed. I'm the one who's supposed to create it from scratch. The network was running in different offices. Everyone is there, desktop or computer sitting there and maintaining whatever element of the network from whatever position they are sitting. Whenever there is a network problem, a user will call and say, we don't have a network. That's when we were able to then find a solution. Now, that's a normal way. If you check backwards in Botswana, for instance, BTC, you possibly have experienced the same, where you call the operator to say, I don't have a network. So it might be the old technology which we used to have, which is the copper lines. We used to call it a landline technology. Or it can be what we have now, which is called fiber to the home, or for BTC, for instance, is 4G or 5G. If you call the operator today, even now, and say my network is not working, you are lucky if they will open a ticket and give you the ticket number. I don't know how it makes sense to the user that now I'm safe, my problem is known. The reality of the matter is nothing has been done. The problem has not been solved. You still don't have internet, if it was an internet problem. So my first task was to bring the entire network into one room so that on one screen we are able to see what's happening in the whole network before the end users tell us. So I was put into the boiling point and thrown there to say, figure it out yourself. You are a new engineer in the market. Try make it work. Now, dating back to then until what we do now at Quadruple Play, there is a lot of a conversation that has happened throughout the lifespan and the experiences I went through in terms of how do we make these networks better such that when you are a user, you don't need to tell us there is a problem. We tell you there is a problem. Imagine I make a call and say, you know when you are in the sitting room or living room, your house is big, and I appreciate that. They always say it in sales to say how we are made. We don't buy because we need it, but we buy because we want it. Because if you buy because you needed it, why did you buy a Mercedes-Benz when there was a Kwid or a Honda Fit, for instance, as an example? But both cars have four wheels. Who pushed you to a Mercedes? You wanted a shelter you needed 2 rooms, but you came up with a whole 5-bedroom, even double story or triple story. It's how we are. We buy because we want, not we need. So now imagine you are in that house, which is a double story. Downstairs you are fine. My operator, I keep using PTC as an example. We work together, so please don't stress too much. The Wi-Fi is arriving very well at the living room, but immediately you are in your bedroom, it disappears, or it just doesn't work. Now imagine you can be the one who reports it, but imagine a 5-year-old telling you in the eye that, Papa, this Wi-Fi of yours, when you find time, please can you make it work? Think of the frustration. You don't sit in my shoes. I can understand why it doesn't work, but you are not supposed to understand. You are not in the industry. You are not supposed to participate in this. So basically, these are the problems that we face and see at the current moment, today as we speak. So I'm speaking of today's problems. But dating back the entire journey that we came from where I sit and where I stand, I can quickly fix your internet and tell you what you need to do. But the question is, where will we find each other? Now, what if I'm not there at all? What if I didn't come? How was that problem going to be solved? And now, while we are at that one, sitting here in Botswana, we are sitting in the capital city of the country, Gaborone. So I'm here for the first time. The last time I went to Kasane. My experience of Kasane and the experience of Gaborone is different. So every time I enter a new place or a new city in the SADC or African continent, my first thing that I check is connectivity. Within 10 minutes of arrival, I'll tell you how is the status of connectivity in the country, not just the place I'm landing in. So I landed in Botswana already. I arrived at the border yesterday. Immediately, 10 minutes into the country, I knew what's going on. I can tell you, you got the infrastructure, but there's no connectivity still. We share the same problems in all SADC countries. I spend more of my time in South Africa. We have this perception in SADC to say, possibly South Africa is better. Yes, the economy is big. Yes, it's the biggest GDP in the African continent. Keep flip-flopping with Nigeria. But the problems of connectivity are the same. I almost cried when I said I saw Johannesburg in 2020, city of Johannesburg. We share the same problems with the biggest city in the continent. It never made sense to me. What is the problem? Where are we missing it? If you go to South Africa, companies like Quadruple Play, we're sitting at more than 1,000 operational connectivity companies in the country. But the connectivity problem remains. Thanks, Program Director, for raising that AI story. I'm trying to run away as AI, ChatGPT, so I just Googled it and say what's the connectivity status in Botswana. And one of the items was from Maggie saying in Botswana, there is a digital divide in terms of connectivity. Can I tell you, there is a digital divide in all our SADC countries and African countries that exist. The most painful part, that digital divide keeps expanding. The urban are advancing. We are in urban, we are talking about AI already. If you want us to talk about AI, generative AI, and what it does beyond your ChatGPT, here we can talk about it. But the reality of the matter is, there is a certain population in all our countries where they are still looking for connectivity first. Can we also get connected before we can also participate in this type of conversation? So where we come from and where we sit from a quadruple play point of view is to say, yes, these technologies are there. We are experiencing them, and we are very happy with the connectivity, the experience that we express in urban areas. But can we also expand the same to rural areas? So what we found is everyone, all the operators in the continent, they speak about the same thing. So there's never a conference you'll go to or a seminar you'll go to and find someone saying, we don't care about the digital divide. Believe me, it is in everyone's passion. Everyone wants to see it. When I sit in my rural area, I want to see my mother connected and calling me using video call. The first time she was calling me last year, before she didn't have a smartphone, she was using this one. I'm not sure if you have that one here in Botswana. The one that still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 written, and then under those numbers there's letters. We call them feature phones. She used that for a long time. And last year we said, no, you also have to jump to the smartphone. The first thing she did was a video call to me. That time I'm in Equatorial Guinea. And she asked, you seem to be in a very deep rural area. I'm like, yes. You travel all this way for going to a rural area. I said, the reality of the matter is, if there was niceness here, I was not supposed to come. So my existence and my being in Equatorial Guinea is because they don't have connectivity. So anywhere you find me, it means there's a problem of connectivity. And then she was like, okay, I thought you were in very nice urban areas, in offices, working very well. I'm like, you believe me, I'm working very well now. Not sitting in any office. The last time I had a physical office was year 2020 when COVID started. So allow me to share how what we do as quadruple play plays a very important role to what we are all about today, which is AI. We spend most of our time trying to extend the connectivity to reach everyone. So what we do, we don't build networks for ourselves, but we partner with all the service providers that we operate in. So currently, we are yet to move to Botswana and Namibia, but currently we have Swaziland, South Africa and Zambia in terms of what we do. So we build the networks such that we then use AI to provide support to the end users of these network operators that we build the networks for. So should we build a network in Botswana, for instance, we take charge of the end user. We take charge of providing the support to the end user. We come from an environment where possibly in my life, I did set up what is called a call center. If you can check in all the companies across, even here in Botswana, there is always that department called a call center. They are trained very well in customer care. Even if you call and you are angry, normally in our industry, everyone who calls, they don't call to massage us to say, we like your work that you are doing. I've never had a call like that, a customer calling and say, we are happy, thank you for the service. Every time a caller is calling BTC or what's this other one that is MTN based in here? Mascom, yes. No one calls the call center of Mascom to say, thank you guys, you are so impressive. If any time you find a call like that, no, there's something wrong. A customer sends an email to our marketing guy in Eswatini for one of our ISPs called Touch IT and say, Touch IT, I'm impressed, thank you. He replies, sorry for the inconvenience. we will find a solution soonest. The customer replies, Touch IT, I said, thank you. I'm not complaining. We are not used to that type of message. Now, a customer is already frustrated and is calling the call center, and the person who is there is only to receive the call to analyze and say, sorry, here is a ticket. But what's that ticket for? So practical, the person sitting in the call center is not the person who's solving the problem. I'm stuck here, I want to work. I always see sometimes people or our customers or these end users calling. I don't know what they are doing during that time, but I think it's because of the assignments now, because everyone is at school. Someone would be typing WhatsApp at 1 a.m. and asking for help. Because we are working 24 hours, we'll resolve that problem. So our approach, we hire engineers to solve the problems as of when the customer types them. So if the problem can't be solved remotely, then that's when we apologize and say, sorry, Mr. Customer X, your problem will be attended tomorrow morning. It's a physical problem. But most of the time, it will be a problem that can be resolved remotely. So what we do, we provide those type of systems so that we have visibility of the connectivity of every customer router. So that's the first layer of what we do at Quadruple Play. So the systems that we use, they are already AI powered. So these systems are able to go and extract the problems that the end user is having and send to us even before we can pick there's a problem. So even when you are already telling us you have a problem, we have the data already to say, yes, you have a problem. Have you ever called and we are saying, no, we are aware. We are actually working on your problem. We are going to resolve it in 10 minutes. It sounds very nice from a customer point of view. And if you check properly today, the drive is no longer about anything else, it's about the customer. There is always that saying, which we always ignore, which says the customer is king. And people keep saying, the customer is not king. And the statement continues and say the customer is always right. And people say, but the customer is not always right. But allow me to reintroduce those two statements today. The customer is king and remains king. The customer is always right at any given time. And if you forget those rules, rule number 2 is the customer is king and the customer is always right. The moment everything starts from there backwards, you will find why the customer is king and the customer is right. It's the customer who pays the company. It's the customer who pays the company's bills. It's the customer who pays anything. If you check properly from our telecoms companies, if you can ask very well, where do they base the pricing that they charge you for 1 GB, 2 GB, 10 GB data? You realize the misalignment. They figure it out themselves. And they'll come and tell you, it's the cost of operation. What has it to do with me? I'm the end user. I'm looking for 1 GB, for instance, a 10 puller. Can I have it? How you make it come, it's your own baby. If you are using tractors to bring that 1 GB, try using a bike. If the bike is expensive, maybe try a bicycle. I buy Uber in Cape Town one time, and then I check on the app, how far is him bringing my food? And then Uber is saying the Uber guy is actually walking. So there's a feature which says actually he can walk. But think about it. I'm buying from McDonald's, it's downstairs of the building I'm residing in. How else can he come to me? He walks. the customer who has to pay them. But if we reiterate the statement, the customer is king, and the customer put the foot and say, I can't afford that. That's why I think if you notice, we keep saying data is expensive. The reality is that statement is true, but it's coming from the customer. So what we do, more than just helping these operators set up the networks, we identify all the gaps where they put unnecessary costs. They might not know, which is what we found. So we tell them, this cost is not needed, remove it. Give you a simple example. You call the operator and say, my network is not working. They send a whole car to come fix it physically. Think of it, there's no other way. But we're in AI today. We put just one AI tool that can detect what exactly is the problem and can be fixed without sending a technician. Now you cut the cost of employing the technician themselves, you cut the cost of the fuel and the repair cost of the car. At the end of the day, what accountants call the bottom line becomes bigger, and then there's more money remaining on the table. And someone will ask, are you advocating for people not to be employed? The answer is no. People must be employed. But people shouldn't be puppets. I shouldn't send a technician without knowing what exactly is the problem. And they reach the customer, they realize they forgot a screwdriver. Now they must go back and look for a screwdriver and come back again with a ladder. Can we just send someone to do work? The moment we have more people remaining and there's no employment, there's one field which I like a lot and I always push for that, called agriculture. We have a lot to do on that side. There's a big problem of food security. So possibly we are using people on the wrong side. We need to shift them. So that's one thing that we then help the operators to do. And then we work with an organization called SATA, Southern African Telecommunication Association. Now you can guess that's the reason why I was in Kasane last year. So every time there's a conference, I go and present solutions. What we are working on now is AI currently is with us. Eddie said there's nothing we can do about it. And I had to confirm there's nothing. There's nothing. At this stage, there's nothing. But where is this AI thing sitting? Are they on air? One guy said, when he was convincing the youngsters who kept speaking about the cloud, they said there's a cloud data center somewhere. It's like, so what happens when the sun comes? Does that cloud not clear away? And now you took our data and you put it there. Now the cloud is cleared away. And we were saying, no, but understand it better than that. It's like, no, but it's how you put it. You said it's a cloud. So now the cloud moves away. It goes away with our data. What exactly will that mean? So what we then started doing is to say, this AI is driving what we do. Can we also participate as SADC? So if SADC participates, automatically the whole of Africa will follow. So what we are now doing, we are decentralizing what we refer to as the data centers closer to the communities that push the data to us. So this data, called AI data, it's interesting that is uploaded from what we already had. So it's data that we are sitting with in our countries, and data that we are still sitting with because we are not connected. So the moment you get connected, then we start extracting data from you. But we take this data outside the continent. March last year, before we went to Kasane, we were in Lusaka, Zambia. A certain ship cut by mistake the cables that are bringing connectivity to the continent on the west coast. While we were on it, then there was a problem on the east also. Then the continent became isolated, no connectivity. That day, we realized all these data centers we speak about in South Africa, Kenya, and across the continent, they are actually nothing. They are not carrying this data. So if someone says Google, for instance, as an example, is locally with us, that day we realize that these things are coming by these cables all the way from Europe and the West. So practically, we are participating in a conversation where we are not part of the front seat. So it's like every time we are hearing what is the new AI. Oh, it's no longer ChatGPT. Okay, what is it now? Oh, it's Manas from China. I think that one is much better. For instance, with Manas, I don't need a graphic designer anymore. So I'm cutting off my graphic designer. I'm doing it by myself. But I'm still sending the data to China. It's not sitting with us. So one of the initiatives which we are driving and pushing is these data centers to be in our continent. So we're pushing for SADC to adopt that and be the first one that does it. And then allow me to end with a lot of other buzzwords that you have heard. I'll mention two of them that are associated with these emerging technologies called AI. So, but maybe before I go there, what I like about the age we are entering now for the next 10 years is we are no longer going to rely on anyone's thoughts. Everything must be technically proven anytime. So these technologies are driving us to that direction. If I have a contract with you written in black and white, what I'm supposed to deliver, you don't need to check. It will go the smart contract way. It will just automatically comes and that contract must just be delivered. And when you are supposed to pay me also, I don't need to go check on you and brush a few shoulders and say, please, can the payment start coming? When the process is completed, the payment will be taken from your account to my account. As simple as that. So that's where we are starting to go now. It's no longer about, I know you, you know me. We are going to do business even before we know each other. So these human-to-human relationships are going away because where we are going now is the data that validates you have done what you have done. And what drives that is AI. So the technologies that we use to then extend the connectivity down to everyone, it has been termed in some generations. At some stage it was called 1G. Then it moved to 2G. I think when we jumped into the mobile space in the late 90s, early 2000, it was called 2G. Those phones that we have had, you call them aerials. They had big aerials. We had those phones and that kept shrinking. And then late, around 2007, 6, 7, and 8, we found a new technology called 3G. It was an excitement that now we can browse internet actually from the mobile phone. So that's when it started to say now we can actually use the mobile phone to browse the internet. And then around 2010, we started developing another generation. So 3G was basically to say now you can browse internet, that's all, and a little bit faster. And then it became a failed technology. We moved to a technology called 4G, which we are using even now, the most stable generation that we have. Communication is all about the entire population, which is sitting at 8 billion today. So it has always been human-to-human communication. But the reality of the matter is, since internet started, there is no communication between human to human in reality. If you check in front of you now, it's not you who is talking in the digital world, but it's that laptop, it's that phone. You are responsible for inputting whatever data to that phone, but the reality of the matter is what interacts with the networks now, it's not you as a person, it is those devices. So it then moved away, it shifted now to what we refer to as machine communication. So the advancement of AI comes from what we call machine to machine communication. But machine to machine communication is exactly what's happening even now in this room. Whatever you type in your phone, laptop and everything, you type it in words. But what happens in the digital world is a different communication altogether. Now, it meant because of this number of devices that we're starting having in our hands, we needed a new technology to handle the traffic that we are now communicating, and then that's where 4G came in. And in the introduction of AI, we are now not the only ones who input anything into these devices. Machines also are working with us. Technology called 4G is no longer sufficient for that. Hence, we now have 5G. It changes the whole game. Actually, we were supposed to use 4G in 2019. And the universe, I wouldn't point to anyone's finger, pushed us to some biological problem called COVID-19. During that time, everything shifted completely. Where we are today is because of that shift which we got in year 2020 until 2022, somewhere there. We are supposed to be using 5G at any given time. So I'm happy I saw here in Botswana, you're already sitting on 5G on the mobile operators. It's a very good move. But that's not where 5G is supposed to go. 5G is taking us a little bit far. So it's not just an iteration of the generations that we used to have. That's why if you go check the business model of the operators, they don't still understand what exactly 5G is supposed to do. If you ask me nicely, I will tell you, we also don't understand it from the telecom sector. So the best way to do and try to avoid it is to then jump into what we call 6G, because we heard China is talking about it already. In that case, we've skipped it. So 5G is actually supposed to usher us from 4th industrial revolution to 5th. But the reality of the matter is we are still trying to understand 4th industrial revolution even today, what it entails. So why we exist and why we do what we do, our main mandate is to share the knowledge from how far we've come and see how best we can digitally transform together, not with our industry only, but with all other industries. So the gaps that we see in our industry, they exist across all other industries. So our role is basically to say, let's fix the connectivity issue first, and then let's digitally transform every other industry. Because any industry that is not digitally transformed in 2035, 10 years from now, the problem will be big. I think let me end here for today. Any questions, we can address them from outside while I'm still here, but I think also I'll share our contact details if you want to probe us further. Thank you.
So when I get your number and the Wi-Fi doesn't want to work, I know who my first call is, right? Because I'm listening to him and he's telling us a story of the last time he was in Botswana and how he checks connectivity and whatnot. And he's like, guys, within the first, you said 10 minutes, you can know what the issue is. So I'll just call you. I'll be like, yeah, listen, it's slow. It's not working. It's saying no internet connection. What's happening? Must I pay? What's supposed to happen? Right? The weather. The weather. I don't know about the rest of you, but I heard someone else cough also. So if you judge me, no. I refuse to be judged. Anyways, guys, so next up on our program, we have another speaker, Dr. Tepo Mauta. Yes, he's going to be talking about AI's role in governance. And just to talk a little bit about him, tell you, do we have one of his slides here? I don't think we do. But, okay, while they get that sorted out, let's continue talking about AI and the beautiful thing that it is, man. One thing I also forgot to mention while we were doing our little jokes and whatnot with the AI is how easy it is and how accessible it is. Also, just in general, for things like cooking. You get, like, you don't need to go out there, write down recipes anymore and everything. And if you can't cook, now that's also your own problem. It's just because you don't want, man. There's so many recipes. You just go on AI, say, how do I make eggs Benedict? And it'll be like, hey, you do like this, like this, like this, like that, and then, but where do we think it's going to take us? Anybody? Where do we think it's going to take us? You know what? That's valid. That's valid because it's actually quite scary as well. I know we're all scared about whether or not it'll take over or whether our jobs are at risk or whatever. But at the same time, guys, now personally, I'm going to tell you right here, right now, the people I respect the most, one, AI, two, the people who keep updating the AI. Shame. I will say please and thank you every single time. Oh, shame. Every time. Me, hi, Chad, how are you doing? Could you please do this for me? Hi, Chad, how are you doing? Thank you. And she's there like, sure. And I've trained my Chat GPT to talk to me the way I talk also, by the way. So when I send these messages that I'm talking about, and it sounds like me, it just might not be me. But, you know, and I just want to know, like, what do we think is going to be the first thing to take over? Like, do we think it's going to be robots? Do we think it's the microwave? Do we think it's, what do we think it is? What do we think it is? Your cameras. Yo, then they start exposing you and they're like, and they start exposing you and you're like, yo, that picture that I took last year. Oh no, now it's on Facebook. And there's a whole thing, because also, if you've noticed, there's like quite a few legal cases that have been happening, especially with Boma Apple and whatnot, where they're like, hey, Kana, you know, Siri was listening to you and it was giving information to whoever it was giving it to. I have no idea. I didn't read on it properly, right? And I'm like, But now, it's also a money-making scheme, because now, if you didn't know, by the way, you can go onto like the website, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and just put in your little petition and be like, even me, I want some money, because they agreed to settle, and it was like $93 billion or something, 93 million if I'm not mistaken, and then it gets shared amongst a bunch of people, right? But yeah, where else do we think it's going to take us? You said that it's going to take over. What's taking over? Now I know I'm safe. I say please and thank you. Do you guys say please and thank you to your AI? Are you sure? Are you hungry? You're so quiet. What happened? Sorry, Mutwam. Sorry, we'll fix it. Don't worry. We'll get there in a little bit. What happened, guys? We were vibing. The energy was nice. It was great here. What happened? But can I just tell you something? I like the direction that we're going, but the map is gone. But either way, I come from Zim, right? And already, just in general, we're fighting with our electricity and our whatnot and everything, right? And you guys are in a better position, because now, I meant to say we are in a better position, because when the things are taking over, we won't have the electricity to keep these things charged long enough to take over, man. I'm just saying, we won't die. We'll be there like, You see now, this is why they kept us on load shedding for this many years. This is why. We're going to be fine. We're going to be all right. As Zimbabweans, we're going to be fine. Guys, wait a minute. What's going on? We were joking earlier. What happened? Who beat you? Come on. I'll find them. I'll beat them too. Okay. I think we're ready for Dr. Tsepo Mauta to come up. All right. Please help me welcome him.
Dumelang bagaetsho Batswana. Ke tshepa le tsogile. Ka leina nna ke nna Tshepo Maota. I am from Northwest by birth, not very far from here. There's a village called Dinokwana, that's where I was born. So yeah, today we are talking on a very, exciting topic. For some of us, well, I was not really a person who was born exposed to computer. I think I only saw the computer in my life whilst I was in university. Just from my background where I was born, in the village that I was born, we were not really using machines for learning. And when life goes on, then I developed that interest to learn more and eager to learn. So I'm here again today to come and learn from all of you. Yes, Dr. Tsepo, I've got my PhD in management studies. Part of my study, I was just looking at, using machine learning, for predictive analysis as to what can be done to predict any disruption that may happen in life. By profession, I'm an auditor. I've got 2 decades in the profession, and I'm the chief audit executive for one entity in Gauteng, which is called the Johannesburg Development Agency. So it is my humble pleasure to be with you today. And I'll be talking on AI governance perspective. I know the previous speaker, you were saying you were shying away from AI. So I will just also try to not bore you much in terms of the keyword. But yeah, talk in terms of governance. So embracing disruption is not merely about surviving the storm, but learning to dance in the rain. As you have said, you've heard from the previous speaker that, when COVID-19 hit us, from your institution of higher learning to most of the companies, it then drove a digital shift. Online learning then became a culture for many of the institutions. Many people were not really ready for this move. Actually, the other people, they also content to say that your institutions like your higher learning, they were really resistant to change. But the COVID that then forced the change on them, and there was no way. We had a lockdown, and people had to really learn, and we had the business of providing education. Companies, you can imagine, if you had your staff, you bought them your desktop and you didn't have computers, it means you have to then have that shift in the way that you do your business. So it was a big disruption in our life, similarly to the buzzwords, the AIs, to what we have. If we're not moving with the time and seeing what other people are doing, then you may not have that competitive edge and survive as a company as we've had. I mean, a lot of people are then laying off, some employees. We can imagine now, because more and more people now, there's a competition in terms of how then do you drive your cost down as an institution, for example. Now, if you have the operators going on site to go and diagnose the problem as to what is happening, or even having to, your turnaround time, because for me now as a customer, all that I'm interested in is a turnaround time and also a quick service. So if you are taking forever to come and attend to me, customer loyalty has gone out of the window. And that's why we see what is happening now in the world today with all this price war, going on, and China having penetrated a lot of markets. People are no longer, loyal to a product or to a certain brand. All that they want to see is that you can give them what they need at that point. So the world today, and if you have to look also in terms of AI, I mean,
the term itself, since 1956, coming from Mr. McCarthy, is the one who coined this word. And I'm happy, this morning I had a chat with Opa whilst we were still having our breakfast, and we were saying, but why is AI now becoming a buzzword? Is it that it's only now that it has been there, or what's happening? The term came from 1950 by Mr. James, and when he has to define and say that AI is just basically mimicking a human, intelligence and trying to come up with solutions to the problem that people have. And you look at, since I think 2011, that's when then we had this AI coming in terms of Siri. That's when it came in terms of the voice recognition. In 2014, the deep face, Facebook starting to, read the face of the person. But then now, why of late that we have this with AI buzzing and everyone all about? And I think it came in because of the generative AIs, your chat, that they then started pushing in this AI, and people now started seeing it to say, oh, okay, wow, now this is happening. So I'm not really going to be telling you about the definition and all. You'll go and read about it as to what it really means. Now, from an African perspective, if you look at it, as to what is really happening and what have other people in Africa done about this, and I must admit, also take it from the previous speaker, of course, from African context, we still have a lot of limitations of what we've had in terms of connectivity, for the internet. We're still way behind. But something has been done, as we've seen in Nigeria. They've established the National Center for AI and Robotic. As to how effective it is, I think more research and work and evidence has to come to see what they are doing. Rwanda also has been one of the other countries that they are doing a lot in terms of, AI work. I think our coming speaker will come today. Mr. Marumula has been at Rwanda, and they have seen, some work that have been done by that country. The African Union as well is working towards a continental strategy. Not a lot have really been done. I think all these things are still at the foundational level. We know EU is the one that has drafted the AI Act. And from African perspective, there not really been much of documents, even research as well. There's not much of the research that we are seeing that is basically talking on AI and also in education as well. From South African perspective, the National AI Policy Framework has been developed, and I think just last year, somewhere around September 2024, that's when then it was really presented, and it's still a working document. We still have other acts like your Papaya in South Africa. It's still a journey. I know that we've not really fully implemented Papaya in many organizations. We're still doing a lot of alignment, to Papaya requirements. Cybercrime Act also is there. I think if you look at the news, you might be aware that, for South Africa, for instance, we used to have load shedding as the #1 top risk that we were facing as a country in South Africa. But now, cybercrime has now overtaken and is now one of the top risks in South Africa. Just last week, South African Airways had a cyber incident. Your MTNs also, they've had some of these incidents of recent. So more and more people, even in your personal space, myself, I've also been a victim, for instance, of cybercrime incident, because these people are using, deep fake, and they'll present themselves as something that is quite genuine. So more and more people they are also being targeted as the victims. So what is it in terms of the current status? I think we need to do more on that. There need to be more conversation that need to be held. When you look at as well as, because some of these things they are passed in Parliament and all, and I sit around and I wonder to say, do we have necessary skills and proper people that we've deployed to the National Assembly that can articulate and discuss some of these intricacies that are involved in our life, for instance. And I mean, that's a topic perhaps for another day. And what I've seen of recent, especially in South Africa, is that we've seen more young people getting into the space of politics. And there's a good shift, there's a good discussion that we are now starting to see, even in the media, that, okay, now I think people are addressing the right things. So we need more people, politicians, because these are people that are responsible to be passing the laws as well and having a discussion at that level. So one of the benefits that AI, of course, then have brought is basically the new thinking. I mean, I just love what I just heard now in terms of proactive measures that AI can do in terms of diagnosing the problem before even you as a user come to know what the issue is. Just, I think last week, I spent about the whole week before the electricity at home, and we had to wait for a technician to come in and check as to what the issue is. A process before then is that you have to log a call, and they'll tell you that you have a 72-hour duration where you have to be waiting for anyone to respond and to come. The technician came and said, oops, I've seen this problem, and I think this is a bigger issue for me. Let me then call an operator, because this is not at my level. Now you can imagine now sitting, it's winter, and the community that we stay in, I mean, it's thousands of people that are affected. Now, if we can then have an AI just at a click of a button, and just even before that issue can exist, and they can tell you, say, this is what the issue is. No need to log a call. There is a call log that we have for you, and we are attending to this issue. And we don't even have to send, a lot of people coming in just to come in and not really provide any solution. AI can also improve efficiency, just like what he also said in terms of the relationship that we'll have today. Think of it in terms of construction. Where I am, our entity, they are involved in terms of, being in the construction industry. And often things that you see is the delays in terms of the communications between people that are on site, providing the service, either building whatever, and communication that then get to go to your finance department, for instance, to process an invoice, or let alone even update the personnel about the work that has been completed. And I think a number of government entities, if they can then move towards that direction, because we are on about providing service. If you have to then build a road, you really have to wait for someone to come and log a call and tell you about the potholes that you have, on the road, and then it been taken forever again to be attended to and been solved. So it can basically, augment the whole business process and provide efficiency and be agile in terms of, doing the things in your organization. And also another issue is here in terms of understanding the government spending and budget management in the overall. One of the issues that are there, if you have to really talk to your board of directors and people that are there that are managing entities as well as in government and all. I mean, in South Africa, we just heard today that they returned the budget of about 2 billion back to the National Treasury because of it could not be spent, right? Now, you look at that and you're like, but what are the processes that we have in place, and why are we not able to track and see and reallocate this budget to the areas in which that we need this money at? And at the bottom of it, the people that are really expecting to have some of these services, they are the real citizens that are not benefiting. Now, you sitting there, you have a health issue, your clinic is not working, but yet about billion rand has been returned and has not been spent to come in and address the real issues that you have. And I think that's where you can see it and say, I think if we can then implement and look at AI as a solution, especially challenges that we have, but I can almost predict and say that we may have similar issues. For me as an auditor, I think when I look at looking at data and all. I mean, this is a frustration for any chief audit executive or any audit shops that are out there that exist, where we are expected to look at the number of transactions, you know, make meaningful sense and find where the issues are and report to management. And we have big data that is coming in. We can imagine a number of transactions that you have to be going through, invoices that you have to be auditing. So we can look at AI as a solution to be able to help us in the work that we do, because we cannot increase more on heads, but we can, you know, leverage on the technology to basically assist us in doing our work. And for any other, I think, professionals or even any other, you know, leaders, I think this is the solution that they can look at. Some of the global best practices that are out there that I just saw, I look at Singapore. They've unveiled the consensus on the global AI safety research priorities. I've looked at also, I think the one that I'm interested in also was Israel. I mean, we all know that Israel is just the size of your Kruger National Park as a country. You look at Israel, it's basically a desert, but they are self-sustained as a nation. And they spend, in terms of research and development, their percentage to the GDP, they spend, you know, more effort in terms of doing their research and development than any other country in the world. And perhaps that's one of the reasons as to why they are self-sustaining where they are. If you look at the attacks that they have, the war that's happening there, they are just leveraging and using AI as well in their military defense to basically, you know, withstand any attack that they have. But again, there are, of course, also limitations that they have. They don't have experts within the country who can address this, or most of them, but they also look at attracting foreign AI experts to come in the country to assist them. So they're not shying away from their limitation and say, okay, it's fine. We may also be technologically driven, but they also invite and they are looking at skilled people to come in the country to basically assist them with their technological innovation. So that has been the drive that they are having. Something that I think we need to look in. I know countries such as us, as South Africa, there have been a crusade around, you know, looking at the proper scarce skill that we have to look at. And I think we need to look at and say, okay, what is it that we can do to basically empower ourselves as a nation? Disruptors are always there, as when you also move into the cyberspace, traffic gets to then increase. There are, you know, things like your deepfake misuse. Nowadays, it's also very hard to tell. If you look at the videos sometimes, you look at the video and you look at the person speaking, it can almost convince you that this is a real person and this is a message that this person is talking about. And we are in a very sensitive moment. I mean, you look at the relationship that South Africa have with America, for instance. And some of these things, I'm of the view that deepfake also, you know, contributed to some of the tensions that we have today. Because not everything is true that is there that you hear in the media and you are sitting here wondering, you're like, okay, what this thing is said, where is it really happening and all. But deepfake is contributing to that. We have fake news also happening around and creating a whole of panic into people's life as well. And also AI is able to generate certain things, and even you can generate your bank statement that almost appear to be real. People are able to use AI as well to create a website that you look at the website and you are like, but really what is happening here? And you think that you are looking into the real website, doing the work and submitting all your personal information and all your private information, and you know, and they come in and they attack you. Financial loss as well. There have been issues of financial loss where AI was not really giving in the real results and misleading the customers. There can be a reputational damage as well in AI. As we all know, of course, AI and AI models, they can degenerate, they can be outdated, there can be a data decay or a data shift as well. Now you can imagine if you have to go to AI and not really validate everything that you just get from any of your AI model, and there's no independent judgment of what you are getting. it can result in a disaster. In South Africa, there's been a real case where the lawyers, they just took, cases from AI without really validating them, and they just used them as facts and presented them. And it then came back to, to bite them, to say, but look, these things was just a hallucination. They are not really existing cases. For those who are students as well, you just go to your generative AI and you take it. You need to be very careful with that, because again, changes in regulations, updates. You can imagine if we have to talk about the latest citations. Some of these models, they cannot even draw the latest data and citations that are there. They'll talk about something which is appearing to be a real citations, and only to find that it doesn't exist anyway. And that can result in you losing your whole degree as well. Another issue that I have and that I've spoken more about is the zombification. You can imagine if we have our students and the whole cohort, everyone from just at your primary level until university, they having a significant reliance on AI for doing the work. The world is real. When you get into the boardroom, when you get into theater, there's no chats, GTP, there's no meta AI to basically ask for a question in terms of coming up with a solution. Now we'll have people who are now more zombified, who cannot think on their own feet to be able to provide, solutions to the real world issues. Actually, when you listen to people like your Elon Musk and all, they've even criticized the MBA student and say that MBA people, all that they know is basically a PowerPoint presentation, and they cannot come with solutions into the real world issues. Now, we need to be very careful, and I think that's where ethics and also being aware and conscious about how you use your AI. Some of us, unfortunately, we had to learn the hard way in terms of doing our degrees. But nowadays, it's very hard to tell and to distinguish, to say, but has this thing been really written by the student or not? As when we know that these AI models, they are so advanced that it can even humanize, it can even, make them appear as if like they are real. And for you, you can then be enjoying it. Of course, it's good, but there need to be ethical use of the AI to avoid you losing out in an opportunity to learn. So I think we, as Africa, we need to obviously develop a holistic governance policies and framework, and not only rely on your Western countries to give us this information, even the models itself. I think we need young people who will be technical enough to come in and develop some of these models, rather than just us being fed by other people. We need to look at things from our own context and environment, as well as to what we are faced with and the challenges at our hand. And we need you as young people to look into this. We need to modernize also our policies and regulatory framework. I've looked at the POPIA, I've looked at the Cyber Crimes Act. They are sufficient, but I think when you look at the emergent risks that we have, they are not sufficiently covering that. So we need to look at that deeply and say, okay, what are the gaps and what can then be done to close some of this thing. For public sector as well, I think more so, for me as a person who's in the public sector space and doing the audit, another thing is, I think, countries, organizations, we need to look into investing into human capital as well, in terms of technology. I must admit, technology, as well as when you have to talk to other people, business executives, and you have to talk about ICT frameworks and all of that, is not an easy topic that everyone wants to kind of engage in. And you almost, when you sit in there, you're like, okay, I don't think that these people, they really understand fully as to what they are exposed at as an organization. But I think there needs to be a keen interest in terms of the issues that we are exposed to as the countries, as organizations as well. I've almost like what the president also of Botswana was saying, talking about the education that has been provided at the, your kindergarten level. We need to look at the shifting in terms of the curriculum that is offered, for instance, also in the schools. The thing of Fufamantu kind of educations and all, we can't really have that because they are not really contributing much. Another thing that we need to also watch for, and this also, I mean, for me as a parent having a young kid, the wheel on the bus going up and down, vroom, 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 cocomelon thing, because that's what we expose our kids to from morning until, evening. I think that we need to look at that and watch to say, are we really kind of feeding them with the right kind of education that they need? Or will just only be, feeding our kids with things that are not really going to be developed them. I mean, China has for now put AI as part of their curriculum, and there's certain hours that each student at the primary level has to do each week in terms of their curriculum. You look at higher education institution, there is rigidity in terms of them having to change the program and the course offering that they have. I mean, you have to look at, for example, you do a skills gap audit. South Africa, I mean, at this point, we have the high unemployment rate in Africa. And I'm not sure if it's that because of that we do avail data to be assessed. The province that I come in Northwest, we have over 56% of people that are unemployed. We basically have more unemployed people than the people that are working in the province. And now I've heard today that there's 2 more provinces that will be joining Northwest in having that type of a situation. And you are saying, but if we have higher education institution providing education, what is the output rate? How many of our graduates are really graduating, and what type of degrees, diplomas, and that they are having? And we have to go in and do an audit and look at also the vacancy rate that we have in the country. Because you get this type of report, you look at, your Stats SA report talking about this scary number, but you also go and check in terms of the skill shortage and the gap that we have. And you realize that there's a high vacancy rate and there's a high unemployment rate. Now, make that make sense. And you have also a high number of people that are coming in out of the higher education institution and graduating, but they've got nowhere to go. So the question is that, are we really teaching, are we offering the right qualification to address issues of today? I can tell you, as an employer or as an executive, it has also become very much difficult if you have to do an advertisement and have to do any hiring in an organization. And it is very, very difficult to find the right fit for an organization. And this I'm not saying only for me. I know even my colleagues that I work with, I'm often even invited to some of the other panels that we are seeking for people to fill in certain roles. You will advertise and re-advertise, because you can't just find the right skill. In a country with high unemployment rate, and I mean, then you're wondering, you're like, but what is actually happening? What are the issues and what needs to be done? So I think we need to challenge the authorities in terms of, those who are in higher education to say, I mean, let's look at this. Maybe let's have a conversation around this. Let's do a research on it, especially on the, skills gap, and see if are we really addressing the right issues or not. And seeing AI coming in, I mean, I've just heard my brother talking about, having to deal with call center operators, for instance. Do we need a call center operators at this digital age? Or this can be a process which can be automated and you don't really need that. But the fact of the matter remains that we still have risk on AI, and we still have to have someone behind it seeing that this data that is being fed through this process can be relied upon. So it means that people have to be there to some extent to address the issues that we have. So it's not all hope and loss to say that AI is here to come in and wipe the humans. The humans need to also play their part to be there, to look into all of these things to say, are we really looking at the right thing? For me as an auditor, for instance, what I'll be calling for is just to make sure that there are governance processes in place. And that means that if I have to look at an AI processes that they are used in organization, I need to audit and investigate and assess, is this models transparent, because there need to be some acknowledgement when you are using an AI. So it means they need to be on the right skill set that need to be looking at that. You need to watch to make sure that AI doesn't bring about bias as well into, the system as well. So it means someone must be skilled enough to be able to come in and interpret and check if those risks are not existing. Also, we need to foster, I think there needs to be a public and private partnership where universities, I think, as well as startups, like I've spoken about Israel, I mean, they've got over 9,000 startups that are looking into, providing solution into their country. I mean, when you look at also SMME, I think I've spoken or written around the issues of employment and entrepreneurship. Small, medium enterprise institution or startup, these are the issues that are creating employment in any country. There is empirical evidence that shows them. So we need to also invest more at that level to make sure that our small medium enterprise they are really supported, and there's a conversation around the table, not only with your big corporate, but also we have everyone around the table that we can come up with a solution. I like what the country Kenya have done in terms of collaborating with Microsoft, to improve their tax collection as well. So we can learn a lot from each other and see what we can really do in terms of bringing the solution at our level. We cannot be passive as Africa, of course, in terms of this conversation around AI. I know we are looking more in your UNESCO, European Union, being them that are talking around these issues, but I think as Africa as well, we need to bring in ourselves and say, look, from our context, how we operate, how we do things is totally different from any other countries or continent. So let's come up with solutions that are, are aligned with the way that we do things and, our culture as well. My final thoughts is that, look, AI is not a catalyst or not a cure for all, but we need to have our own judgment as in when we use it. I'll always preach for, ethics in the use of AI. And this is what I always also tell my students to say, look, I know that you have all these tools that you are exposed to, but I think it's important to also take an opportunity to learn as a student and see, what you can basically get from this degree or whatever program that you are in. Don't just go in, and zombify yourself. It may expose you when you get to the working environment, and you have all of these qualifications, you have all of these degrees, and you cannot really prove that you have learned, and that can be a sad scenario. In my career, I've really seen a lot of people being offloaded in the working environment simply because they cannot perform. But yet when you talk to them in an interview, you talk to people, you look at their qualifications and you are like, wow, okay, this person, they have all these big papers. And that's why nowadays, even when you look at people that are also providing more solutions, are not really people that are highly certified in terms of many certification. They are more doers and coming in and providing solutions and implementing things. So there needs to be a balance and have the balance between all these things. The other thing is ethical governance is not a prerequisite. It's not an option, but it is a prerequisite, sorry. So we need to basically, more so people that are charged with governance, your regulators, your auditors, they need to also enforce that. And we know that we cannot really do this thing as really having this thing at play. In Africa, I think we have also a unique opportunity. Most of our processes, I've done a lot of audits as well in this country, Botswana, I've done audits in Zambia, Kenya, Ghana, and most of the African countries, when you look at them, the processes that we have, I think we are more manually driven. A lot of organizations are not yet, digitized to that level, like what my brother was talking about in terms of, when you look at connectivity, for instance, other countries, your Western countries, they are more, they have moved into digital world. But for Africa, I think there's a lot of opportunity. We can reflect and look at what we still have, especially data that has not been digitized, and do it right, and learn from the other people that have gone before us, and seen what was their, their risk that they stumble upon, and try and avoid those. Let's not wait for perfect policies and have a perfect world. This is not a perfect wedding. I think that's one thing that I've learned really in life, that we have to do these things. Let's not wait until we can say, oh, okay, we have this perfect thing, let's wait for someone and all. Let's get on it. A gathering like this, I think, is really encouraging to see us coming together and having a dialogue and conversation around this as to what we can really have. I don't think we have an African perspective framework already now from AI or Botswana One and all, but we cannot shy away from a conversation and engaging around these issues. So let's use our existing tools, we use our existing resources that we have, and bring about solutions and provide an input into this thing. So that's it from my end. I think we can then, like my brother was saying, we can engage during the corridors and the breaks if you have any question, or I can take any question if there's any. But that's it from me. Thank you.
Yo, guys, we've been talking a lot, and we've been listening and we've been learning. And so time has come to take a little break. We're going to go through... Oh, by the way, remember when I told you about that QR code? It's back there. By the way, we will be going for tea, coffee, and we walk through, go through that door, and then into the main hotel, the restaurant area. That is where we'll be going. All right, so you can get up and go. I don't want you here anymore.